Yo, it's ODB, the Lincoln Addict, hitting you with another video. I'm having fun doing these. Thanks for everyone that's coming back. Again, my intention here is not to throw the sellers under the bus, but make sure, as the Lincoln Addict, that you get what you're paying for. Also, it might entice people to have, increase the write-ups to more detail and potentially even add additional photos. But let's jump right in. This one is crazy. A 63 Lincoln Continental. Although the subtitle does say convertible, you might be surprised with this one. I've seen this one a couple of days ago and I knew I had to do one of these videos. Bottom line is, buy it now, $26,000, so you kind of know where the seller's at. 66 watchers, so people are definitely interested in this one. And the seller's 785 ratings, all right? When we jump in, we see, hey, it looks like a convertible, fantastic. You have a pretty good write-up here, 63 Lincoln Continental convertible. It mentions 35,000 original miles. Apparently, it was originally, this is the key, a four-door hardtop car, modified by cutting off the roof and made to be a convertible. Now, I would typically say, instead of a Vert alert, a Roadster alert, but you'll be surprised with this one, what they actually did. And actually, there's going to be some good stuff with this, believe it or not. So let's keep going, keep following me here, right? It does mention the hard top was cut off into a convertible with a manually installed convertible top. That's what makes this one different. A 430 engine, talks about some of the horsepower under the hood. Appears that it was new or reconditioned radiator was installed. Kind of gives some of those things. There's a exhaust manifold leak on the right cylinder bank. That is typical with these cars. It can usually be remedied with just changing out the gasket. Although sometimes the manifold ears, if you will be cracked, and that will lead to having to replace the manifolds. Or at least one. The lake pipe side exhaust pipes are not functional. The tires have good tread, kind of just giving you the basics there. Specifics, believe it or not, it says the body is very clean and rust-free. Not much to discuss for the panel condition. He did say that he ran a weak magnet over the car. It doesn't seem to be a Bondo bucket. All the panels seem original. Kind of just normal stuff here, just talking about kind of the little things, right? But it's good that they put this in there. It kind of shows that they took the extra effort to be as clear as possible. Chrome is serviceable. A couple of dings they talk about. The interior does have rips, tears. We'll see that. It's in need of repair, or honestly, an updated replacement would, make a great deal, do a great deal to the car. Again, very truthful kind of confessions, if you will, here. The car starts, runs, and drives, which I think is super important, very well. It cruises right down the road just like a land yacht would. The exhaust ticks is by far the worst part of the entire engine. And again, that's part of the exhaust leak that is typical with these 430s and some of the other, like the 462 and whatnot. The brakes are a tiny bit soft. Talks about probably need to be bled. There's a battery disconnect that's used due to functionality of the original clock that runs. So, these cars definitely tend to drain the battery from some way or another. A lot of old cars do, and that's not something to be kind of worried about. Now, although this isn't a true convertible, typically the convertibles will draw if the relays are not clicking off for the auto drops for the rear windows. Of course, you're not going to have that with this. It was a sedan. The power vent windows and driver windows do work, but intermittently. My guess is it's the switch panel. So typically, even on a nice car, the window switches have to be rebuilt. AC works, which is fantastic. Heater blower motor works, but doesn't get as hot as you would think. I suspect a thermostat is the culprit, kind of giving some normal things. Just talks about basic stuff here. Under the hood is basically untouched. This word cracks me up. And original. There is a soft top that can be mounted to the car, which, believe it or not, I think is kind of cool. So all things considered, you have to look at this convertible, kind of talk about it. It talks about getting a convertible without the cost, right? So let the fun begin, right? When you look at this car, I look at it and say, man, from the photos, it actually looks pretty good, okay? it's not your typical car. It's not going to be for your typical Lincoln owner. Maybe someone that wants to get into one of these cars. You're going to be looking for more of a factory, style car and things like that. I totally get it. But this car, all around from the photos, looks better than some full-blown custom cars I've seen, okay? And I hate to say that. I do see a dent here, which is typical of the bumper ends front and back. I mean, these are big boats, and grandma or grandpa or someone at some point was driving these things, and they bumped into something and just kept on going. But from everything I can see, it's kind of a cool just custom car. The mud flaps kill me. I think it's kind of a funny touch, but again, it goes right with this one. You got the side pipes that he mentioned. Psycho, I think, has side pipes on his. His is a very custom with a K car, and I'll tell you, if you guys don't know Psycho, he's got one of the coolest cars out there, and it is very atypical. It's got a lot of that custom feel. Now, when you look at this, the first thing that sticks out to me is you see, wow, the overspray. I mean, were they trying to paint some of this? Did they just kind of come in here and was that intentional? Obviously, you've got your stainless trim around here, and that's all painted. So that's suspect in the fact that it's like, okay, they just pulled this thing, in and just started shooting paint. The outside looks pretty good overall, but I just don't understand if this was like the custom touch or what's going on here. But regardless, I mean, you look at the bumpers, you look at the car down the side of it. I mean, it doesn't look as bad as some of these other cars. I mean, it looks better than the one I reviewed yesterday, which was number 3, which was a 67. And oh, by the way, that one sold for just over $18,000, which I truly think is a really good deal for that car. Someone's gonna, really enjoy that one. And again, that was the number 3 that I reviewed. This is the number 4. Again, you see the rear 3/4 shot here. You do see a little bit of this right here, and here's a fun fact. Being a big Back to the Future fan, Biff's car, the Ford, in the movie you would think that it's a convertible, but it's actually a roadster. So that car is very iconic. Someone in the public owns it. There's a couple videos out there on YouTube, but the reason why I say that is, contrary to what you maybe thought I was going to say about this one, you can have a roadster car, much like the Biff car in Back to the Future, 1 and 2, and and just enjoy it and drive it. I mean, I look at that car and say, man, that car was freaking badass. And the illusion was that it was a convertible, and it technically isn't if you really look into it. But again, the rear bumper on this car looks damn good. I've never owned a 61 through 63 and kind of some of this rear trim, but I've always thought it looks really great. Some people prefer this over the 64, 65, kind of that change. You do see, again, a little bit of dents here, but these, or potential, dents, I guess. But what I would say is these bumper ends are nicer than what I've seen on a lot of nice cars. Rear 3/4 shot from the driver's side. You can see the detail that they put into it. I mean, the hubcaps, again, maybe not my style. They painted some of the side pipe deals, and this doesn't look too bad in here. You have kind of a vintage, the chain style, license plate bracket. But this is probably my least favorite part of the car so far, just how they kind of painted all this. And maybe that's, again, what they were going for. You see the bars are painted. Being that it's a 63, these grills, the easiest way to tell them apart from, obviously, the 64 is totally different. You could easily tell that. It kind of has that forward facing, it's hard to describe the way the 64 grill is, right? But I mean, it's very distinctive. The 62, the easiest way to tell it apart is it has what I call the long rectangles, and this being a 63, you kind of have a couple of these bars in here, very similar to what they did with 64, but then you have this line through the middle. Again, bumpers look clean. No, this is where, you start to get into the weather stripping is just bad. And I wanted to reinforce this Not so much on this car because you know what you're getting. This is a different kind of car, but this is the angle that I was talking about in some of my other videos. You always want to see underneath the doors. This door doesn't look too horrible. This weather stripping, if this was a super nice car and a car that, you'd be looking to restore, this would have to go, and you'd have to go with like steel rubber, who I always talk about. Same thing here is kind of what you're seeing. I always tend to start looking in here. A lot of this is obviously sprayed over with this paint, but it's hard to tell unless you're in person. Like, is this real crunchy in here or what? You can see the seats. We'll get to the interior in a second, which let's just jump in now. The gentleman said, look, the interior is what it is. This could easily be totally blown apart and you could spend several $1,000s totally redoing it all. It's probably one of the worst parts of what I'm seeing. Kind of showing the mileage here. The word of to the wise that I would give is you never really know if this odometer has went over or not. If there's with the 65 that I purchased, again, there was paperwork that you could kind of go back and see, at one point it was serviced at 75,000. Well, now when it shows 23,000 on my car, it gives you that insight into did it flip over. Engine bay looks, pretty good. You can see in here it's been sprayed. You've got AC. You've got the junk 2-port Carter fuel pump. And again, you can tell, let me see if I can zoom in here. You can tell right here because you've got this fitting, this fitting here where it kind of comes off of. These are just junk. They never work well. And again, the fuel comes in here. It's going to come out here, this line, this hard line, and it's going to go into the car. But this has to be trashed. I don't care, if it's this car or, a nicer car. It is what it is. This piece right here also, please note, these tend to rust out. And they're not super cheap. You can do kind of alternate things. But, bottom line is that this is usually something I think they go for $50 to $100 for that fitting. But again, that's kind of the Lincoln tax, as we call it. You can see here, this is important if you've watched the other videos I've done. This is a single reservoir, which was the original and maybe changed early in the day, but this has to be changed. Typically, he talked about the brakes being, thinking maybe they need to be bled and stuff. My 64 was a pain in the, to bleed the brakes. But typically, I would say, number one, you got to go with the proportioning valve, go with the newer brake setup, and potentially even get a new booster or have it rebuilt. Again, you're seeing, here, you start looking at the stainless here, the peak moldings, really not a lot of pitting. Taillights look pretty good. Bumpers look pretty good. Even inside the doors, although it's been all resprayed, I've seen cars look a lot worse, okay? Not a fan necessarily of the interior, although I love blue Lincolns. Not making fun of this one, certainly. I'll give a wrap up here in a minute, but again, you've got your center console, you've got your dice. Let's be honest, this is kind of a fun car. It's something that I would think of like an Inspector Gadget type car. This one's not as hodgepodge together as, of course, Inspector Gadget was. That car, by the way, is at Desertland, which I was calling it Deezerland, but I found out it's actually Desertland in Orlando if you ever want to see it, the Inspector Gadget car. Okay, so we saw this in the 135,000-ish car, no insulation, and someone kind of cleared all this out, of the insulation and whatnot. But that's something that for this car is at this point I think is kind of a normal thing. You can see in here it looks all pretty solid. Original piece here. It's got the kick panels in it still. It's got the original carpet. You can kind of usually tell this pad is in here. A lot of the eBay carpet kits do not come with this pad. Jim Wallace kits do. You got the home carpet in here. This reminds me, growing up, my dad had a van, late 70s Dodge van. And, that was of the era. You see the top in here. And there you go. This is the money shot. Believe it or not, this top, although maybe not your preference, at least it has some protection. So, yeah. And he, of course, takes a screenshot because eBay will take out the phone number if you put it in the text, right? The regular algorithms or, however their software works. So here's my take on this one, okay? Is it a different car? Absolutely, yes, okay? Is it a fun car? Absolutely. This car is in better condition than I've seen some nicer presented convertibles, okay, which is insane to me, okay? This is a car that you could get in, cruise with the family, depending on where you live. If it's nice climate, you could cruise this thing around based upon what he's saying and have fun in it. You could probably even make some money, whether you were doing Uber style things or some chauffeuring or, just taking people around town or whatever. I mean, honestly, this is a car that you could probably, again, make a little bit of funds with. But more importantly, for parades or things like that, this is a car that, you could easily sit some people up here and not have to worry about. You could redo the interior, certainly, change it up some. So my thought on it is it's pretty freaking cool, okay? If you want something that's more factory, you're looking for like collector car type thing, this is not the car for you, obviously. So, yeah, let me know what you think. I mean, do you think I'm off my rocker for even kind of validating this car? I like it. Now, the only thing that I would conclude is the price point. If it was me, I would get on the phone with the gentleman and kind of talk a little bit and see where he's at. I mean, if you were seriously looking for a car and maybe you just didn't have the funds to go for a convertible, but you wanted to have some fun and cruise around and kind of start rolling with the Ratties, who, big shout out to the Ratties on Instagram. We're going to be going to Rat Fest this September, towards the end of September out in California. But, dude, I mean, keep me honest. You got to buy it now. You got to make offer right there. This is the car. I'll say it again. You get in, you cruise, you have fun. You get the family involved. Is it the safest car? If you're one of those guys, you're a little worried. These things not going to have probably any seat belts in it. I can tell for the most part. Definitely not the car for you. But think, Biff didn't have a convertible either in Back to the Future. He was rocking the Roadster Alert. Okay, so yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think. ODB, the Lincoln Addict. I'm going to keep this one a little bit shorter. Appreciate the support. Check out Lincoln Addict Podcast. However you find podcasts, you can also listen now on YouTube. You can listen on Tuned In Radio, and you can even listen through Spotify and Podbean. Podbean is who hosts, and you could download that app, and you could go back and listen to all of them. There's 23 episodes. Thank you guys so much. Shout out to all the ladies also rocking these awesome Lincolns. Let me know what you think. ODB, we out you.